All right, this begins the first of my series of the woodworking part of Steel String Singer number 2. So if you're following along or just want to sit back and watch the series as it unfolds, welcome. If you're new, welcome, definitely. And if you're returning, welcome back. So I got a few things going on to kind of walk you through the background here. The wood I'm selecting, I have 2 different woods, and I'll get to that in a second, but you're going to want to order, this is 3/4, 13 ply. Sorry for my international friends, I don't know what 3/4 off the top of my head translates to, but this is 13 ply Baltic birch, void free or voidless. You see how when I cut this, there's no gaps or anything. Once before I ordered with void, or I guess I didn't specify voidless, and there was in between the plies, the outside looked great, but as soon as you start cutting in, it was pretty clear that occasionally you'll come across a gap. But if you look at here, I don't have an example in front of me, what they do is they'll veneer over any sort of defect on the faces of this. This is cabinet grade, sometimes you might need to ask for it. But this is 3/4. You're going to need 1 sheet of 3/4 and then 1 sheet of 1 sheet of 1/2 inch. I forgot how many plies that is. I think that's 8 ply, but void free again. And you're going to need a sheet of, depending on if you're going to build a speaker cabinet, you're going to want 1 sheet of 1/4 inch plywood, all Baltic birch. What I have going on over here is I ordered, because this is going to be a clone of the Alessandro 2x12, the same one that John Mayer used throughout a lot of, I think from 2010 on through 2013, 14. But this is solid poplar, otherwise known as common board. The poplar is great. It's low weight and it's highly resonant. It's sort of like pine, but not in the way that this poplar is. You see that there's no knots in it. It's very straight. There's a little bit of a curve, which made it a little bit of a pain to cut. But it's a very small but it's a pretty big sounding cabinet because of the, basically the resonance of that cabinet and the light weight of it and everything. And so basically, I'll stop through. So that's going to be the Alessandro cabinet, it's 2x12. This is the head cabinet for my Steel String Singer. So I have to do some routing. Basically, the dimensions on this is 10 1/4 deep, 12 inches high, and I found a old Dumble catalog that confirmed my thought that this was 12 inches high, and it is 12 inches high. So it's 12 inches high, 10 1/4 inch deep, and 25.5 inches width. Okay, and that will be just fine. The Alessandro is 16 inches high. What the heck was it across? 28 across and 11 and change depth. I have to cut that eventually, but I'll get that later on. All right, and now this is probably going to look more recognizable in this direction. This is going to be a 2-rock 2x12 clone, which is 29 inches tall, so 29 inches tall, 21.5 inches wide, and then 12 inches deep. Okay, and then to cut all this, I'm going to flash on the screen right now a picture of how I cut up all the 3/4 13 ply birch plywood. Now, when I first got the sheets, they were 5 feet by 5 feet, and that's not a bad thing, but pretty much what I have to do that, or to manipulate that this time around, is this DeWalt Contractors. It's on a dolly, so it's super compact table saw. And then you basically set your depth here, and I didn't take any video of me utilizing this because it was probably not safe the way we did, or at least to people watching, but for us at the time, and a little redneck engineering, it made a lot of sense. And so I had my wife help me. She was out here holding, and then my other buddy came over and helped as well. And then I made sure that we were straight up against the fence, nice and straight, slow. We just drew the 5x5 sheet into, the first pass was 10.25 inch thickness, and then the rest of the passes were all 12 inch. So I basically manipulated all the sides to work out pretty well. And again, I'll flash on the screen how I cut up my the 5x5 sheet, 5 foot by 5 foot sheet. Once I did that, I borrowed this from my father-in-law. It's from Harbor Freight. It's a sliding miter saw, compound miter saw. It does the job, but it's a little flimsy. If I was to go out, I was tempted to go out and buy something, either DeWalt or Makita. But in a pinch and financially responsibly, I borrowed this from my father-in-law. He upgraded the saw blade on here to a fine tooth, so it cut real clean. Let's see here. So that's the blade that we used. All the cuts, like you see here, I have it for example. Super straight, super clean. It was a little bit of a challenge because this is kind of flimsy when it goes side to side, especially being on the ground. Even if it was secured on a table, it still would be flimsy. So, and also this plate, which I thought could be adjusted, really wasn't. So getting a perfect 90 degrees, I basically had to use my straight edge, which I use here. Highly recommend it. For this job, I use a straight edge to get a nice clean measurement and cut. Now what I didn't do is have my tape measure out here, because what I do, instead of trusting the very edge of the tape measurer, I went to 10 inches, and then I counted from there all the different inches. The reason for that is I don't trust that, that little tab at the end of the tape measurer, that can flex, and it can flex quite a bit depending on the kind that you got. So what I did was, basically I used as a confidence monitor, confidence sort of thing. I brought it out to 10 inches, and then I just added 10 from there. So if I needed to measure, like, just for example, 29 inch, like basically to make a 29 inch cut, I would start at 10 and then measure 39. And that gave me precise, and everything lined up perfect, even though it's on the ground. All right, this is the only thing I bought, and that's this Bosch table. I'll put the link below for a lot of these items. But this is cool. I had to assemble this. It's kind of like IKEA. And here is the bit that's going to do a lot of the magic joining everything. So this is a 90-degree locking miter bit. And what that's going to allow me to do is, in theory, I haven't used this yet, but you basically slide your board one way, then you tip the other complementary board up this way, and you go across vertically. And that basically, the design of this is so they're a locking bit. So I'll put on the screen, how it's supposed to join together. There's a lot of videos on this and how to do it right. So it's going to be a little bit of patience setting it up for the first time, but after that, it's going to make joining these things a breeze. So I'm going to basically turn this off, do some editing. This is more or less my introduction, and then the first phase, which is cutting to length all the boards, and we'll continue on with the project. I'm excited. We're getting closer. This thing's going to be massive.